Hello there, my friends, and welcome to the past as we start our venture into the pre-recorded videos as I get ready to go on holiday. Hope you're having a great day, whatever day it is. And I hope you're excited to see some top level Beyond All Reason. Coming in at 52 true skill, my goodness. All the way up into the 50s. I remember back in my day, I sound like an old cottering fool when I say something like that, but back in my day, 52 was unheard of. I think the pros were lingering around 30. Then again, that was before Bar had really taken off and we were seeing multiple thousands of people per day. It was just down to a couple hundred, I do believe. Anyways, enough Bar lore. You can go find enough of that in the Discord channel. Hell's Hound going to be representing the blue team here on the Eastern Front. Spawning in the backline, but it's a frontline position, really. You don't really have the luxury of a Tecker on this map. Oh, sorry, I should introduce the map. Today's map is going to be Sector 318C, version 1.0. No chance in hell that I'm going to remember all that. Especially with how uncommon we see this map. I really, I find it a shame because it really is one of the cooler ones. It's got these cool little tentacle gas bag trees, apparently, tentacle plants. I think it's really cool. Adds an atmosphere of alien ness to the overall Bar gameplay that I really find thematic. It's one of those things that my headcanon lore for Beyond All Reason is essentially that, yeah, these robots are continuously fighting over new planets every single day, and so that's what all the maps are. Anywho, representing our red team, coming in at 30 true skill, a little bit of an imba there perhaps, but still same amount of chevrons here indicating total hours played, so maybe not as imba as it may look at a glance. Representing our red team is a Cortex commander going into bots already with 2 solar panels down. It's gonna be Tom 1286. Going into a con turret here, getting ready to expand the operation off of just a single metal extractor. Feels a little bit, well, shy in the metal department for sure. Gonna be looking at alternate metal methods here shortly, I'm sure, and indeed you can see Tom walking his commander forward, no doubt to capture some of these very, very valuable at this point metal extractors. Out on the map already, tons of aggression. We do see some rovers moving on across, those Armada T1 vehicle scout. We also see some some ticks moving on across as well. Pumped out by Vorpal Defiance, who is the brown player today, going to be taking a look around. Not finding anything though, and I'd love to see these moving across, maybe seeing if I could snag a kill here and there. Always lovely if you can pull a metal extractor or two down with your early scouting units. It's not a lot, but in the early game, you know, it can certainly turn some tides later on as that scaling falls out of control, especially if you're up against a vehicle player, for sure. Nice air scout here that we're watching. Chris_NI, or Chris Nee, maybe? Going to get a nice little air scout here as we do see this aerial Finch flying above head. Going to be scouting out the vast majority of the red team, I do believe. Finds 3 of the players, and there's a 4th, and once you have enough of the players, you can kind of implicitly determine where everyone else is, right? You can see the reds and the pinks and the oranges and all that, and you kind of get a general sense for who is playing in what position here. Eventually that Finch does get shot down by the commander of Tom 1286, but at this point the damage is done and everyone is well aware of what's going on. No air rework for today, so it's just going to be a fighter flying across. Oh, gonna try and snipe some cons here. That's quite cheeky. Okay, gets a con with the fighter there. That's certainly worth it. The constructors costing 110 and 3,000 energy versus the fighters coming in at, well, much cheaper than that, about 60, 70 metal apiece. Hold on, here we are. 73 metal apiece, 2,800 energy apiece. Yeah, pretty good trade. Slows down the air player, of course, as well. Hell's Hound starting to push out here. Getting ready to expand the operation. We have some build power coming up right now. We have a couple of energy converters to use that energy runoff that's kind of trailing off from all the high energy plants all around this planet. Sector 18C or whatever it's called. I'm pretty good at memorizing stuff, but yeah, the random numbers are certainly going to get away from me. As computronic as my brain may be, yeah, some things just do not align with memory. Unfortunate trade over here on the northern side as a bunch of grunts do run into an LLT and go down over here. Looks like they stopped an aggression though, as some other grunts are lying in ruin, and now these grunts are looking for a little bit of a run by. They do spot the pink commander as well as the pink missile truck. Might even get the missile truck here. Yeah, it looks like we might snipe it. Oh, you know what, that missile truck, oh, it does manage to bring down 2 of those grunts. Eventually, the missile truck does fall here. can we get the metal extractor? Oh no, that's quite nice. Gonna get a metal extractor and the missile truck here. I think that's well worth it for those grunts. They gotta be happy with that trade, and this grunt might even go on to get some more. Oh, some more kills here. Yeah, it's routed properly. It'll avoid the explosions for the most part from these metal extractors, so it's gonna be doing a good job. Yeah, there we go. 3 metal extractors down for that grunt. That's an absolute hero. Will be awarded with many a medallion and reaching nicknames as it gets back home to the motherland. Surely. No, that got destroyed almost immediately. A little bit of a blitz breakthrough here on Zeeburg's front line as well. That's uncomfortable. Yeah, this blitz is now free to go ravage everything back there, but they're more interested in shutting down the units. I suppose when you have this many and it's efficient to do so, you can kill the units and go on to kill the base, and with no units left, well, how are they gonna stop you from killing anything? So probably a good move right there by Nikotan. Moving his blitzes forward. Defenses were starting up, but not quite on time. And indeed, those blitzers are now in the backline of the Cyan player, and they're gonna start ravaging everything that they can. Slowly but surely. There we go. Construction turret goes down, and it's going to be all the eco that goes down next here. This is devastating. Absolutely crippling right now to the Cyan player, who has no option but to rely on the generosity of a teammate to try and save what little remains over here. Eventually, those blitzes will go down to Count Tharsis and his blitzes, who managed to save the day, but already a lot of energy production down the drain right now for Zeeburg. Frontline's rapidly evolving on the southern side as our blue and red player go up against each other. About as fair as it's going to get on this southern line right here. We have thugs and grunts in mixed composition right now. I think we desperately need a resbot or two to try and patch things up. We do have a resbot, actually, so we could resurrect some stuff, repair some stuff. One of the all-time favorites for Cortex players is the old infinite thug push, where you just have your thugs march forward. Oh, Hellshound looking to do a little bit of a commander trade, but actually gets pushed back by the forces in red. That's quite cheeky right there. Almost got away with it, but didn't manage to. Now the thugs start to move on forward. Thugs have to fight up this hill, though. There's tons of laser towers as well as plenty of units right now for Tom, so I don't think they're going to be able to get much of an effect here. The infinite thug push. To explain it very briefly, you use your thugs until they die, and then you use resbots to use them until they die, and then you resurrect them once more, and you use them until they die, and so on and so forth. You get the idea. Beamer turret coming up on the low ground here. I don't mind it. Beamer turret's very powerful. They can reach out quite far and can probably melt down a lot of this static defense here. Not quite. It's just about a foot too far backwards here. Unfortunate, because if it was just a little further forward, it would have been able to pretty much melt away this entire front line, but not going to be the case here. Big old clash of forces over on this side. Vorpal Defiance, though, holding strong. He does have this lightning turret, putting in tremendous work as well as all of his forces, and that is a massive amount of metal now lying right at his hands. I'm sure the Brown Commander is going to be more than happy to eat up all of that 1.6 thousand metal and fold it back into their army, leaving Count Tharsis with virtually nothing to their name. Yeah, no metal to continue providing for these vehicles here. Wind speed is pretty high right now, so at the very least, energy producers, or energy converters rather, going to be able to stay online, but it's a dying battle. Zeeburg dealing with some medium tanks. Can he get a D-gun? Well, the tanks do evade him. Unfortunate. Nice micro right there by Nikotan. Oh. Yeah, Zeeburg's looking for it. That commander walking around while cloaked, though, it's going to draw so much power right now. Trying to just stall so that there's more medium tanks available. Eventually, that defender's advantage is going to kick in here for Zeeburg, but not before he's lost 2 metal extractors as well as an LOT and a radar dish on the front lines. Starting to become a very desperate situation right here for the blue team in the middle of the map. Not going to be too long before that metal advantage from the brown commander does eventually express itself on the field. You can see he's banked quite a lot of metal right now. These units are going to start coming up. He starts surrounding the lab with nano turrets immediately, getting ready to pump out more and more and more units, and eventually, yeah, it's going to be a heavy advantage right now for the brown commander. So what do you do in this situation? It's a little bit of a tricky mixed bag of options, right? You can either double down on the aggression and try and snipe the commander, or maybe trade really effectively with some of these units, or you can try and eco greed like crazy and just go for a whole bunch of eco in the backline. Either one is risky. They both have their inherent risks. Obviously, you're not going to have much of an army if you eco greed like mad, and you're not going to have much eco if you go for a crazy army, but something has to be done when you give away over 1,000 metal like that, because you just know that your enemy is going to have an implicit advantage over you. Shell Shockers over here helping to, or rather Wolverine over here helping to burst down this heavy laser tower that was built up here. Didn't expect this HLT to come up in time, but they did actually, they being Dr. Zayas, did manage to get that tower up, and so indeed, yeah, that heavy laser tower is going to start trying to work away at these. Wolverine's having a pretty tricky time. Eventually going to get the beamer turret, and that basically allows these to step a little bit further forward here and start raining down fire on that HLT. Not much time left in that thing's life. The Wolverines reign supreme. Wolverine's, of course, very vulnerable to any sort of assault unit, so a couple of blitzes, a couple of incisors, any of those light units going to be more than enough of an effect to shut down a whole lot of those Wolverines, so maybe that's what we'll see here coming up shortly. Meanwhile, southern side still held quite nicely. Thugs firing away from on high. Rocketeers, aggravators rather, holding the lines here. Aggravators, a pretty decent counter to thugs if the thugs are impaired in any way, mobility-wise. Yeah, you start to move those thugs up a hill and the aggravators are going to get a more clean shot. Might make things a little bit more effective. Hell's Hound with a very extremely far forward T2 lab. Deciding to go for the aggression path here. Gonna have to hold off on a wave of pawns that are now running forward. LLTs are in place, and they'll be great for blasting down as many of these as possible. Commander also wiping out a whole bunch of them. Nice D-guns right there, clearing out most of the chaff right now. Very, very nicely done. A couple of pawns squeak through, but they're brought down by the remaining LLTs. Very nicely done by Hell's Hound. An excellent hold right there. Those pawns squeaking through could have meant the end, as all of the economy got ravaged in the backline, but narrowly avoiding that fate means that the blue commander will, at the very least, manage to hold his T2 lab on the southern side for now. Tom 1286 senses how dire the situation is getting, knows he needs to try and deal something, or deal some damage rather, ends up sacrificing his commander for Hell's Hound's commander, wipes out the entire army right now though for the blue player, and that's going to mean that, for the very least, the red player has the advantage right here on the front lines. T2 constructors are out and waddling away for their lives, but those aggravators are going to be pretty quick to bring them down here, and the T2 lab has fallen. Now it is only a matter of time before... Yeah, now it is only a matter of time before the red army pushes in far enough here. Plus all this metal lying on the ground. We'll love to see this constructor maybe moving forward and grabbing all that. Very, very difficult. This is a situation that is difficult to claw yourself out of. Hell's Hound definitely trying his very best. So he starts up a vehicle right away, starting to pump out some of those tanks. They're going to struggle up this hill, but if they can fight on the flat terrain, they'll do decently. There's still a huge army over here. We're dealing with about 1,700, 1,800 metal versus just a couple hundred so far, pumped out and available for the blue commander. Oh, there's a bug on my screen. Gross. Anyway. That's a lot of metal currently available right now to the red team, though. 3.2 thousand to be specific. And I don't see how that doesn't turn into an overwhelming advantage on the southern side right now as Tom 1286 moves in for the kill. Yeah, those thugs sense that it's now or never, and indeed that T1 army is going to be forced to run on by. Medium tanks trying their very darndest to shut all this down. Just don't think there's enough quite yet. Riot tank going to be much more useful here. Great for stuttering those more prone to slow down units like the thugs and the aggravators. See, the impulse on it makes them stutter for just a second. Even more prominent with some of the lighter units like pawns or grunts, but still quite effective on thugs here. Okay, Hell's Hound holds with the assistance of some shuriken. Would love to see the shuriken just handed over at this point. I feel like that's probably a worthwhile venture. Yeah, but already the eco has been absorbed. The money has been stolen. It must go somewhere. Nikotun has pushed pretty far forward here. Just the commander on the front right now. There are units available, but he's just using the commander to express forward an advantage. Medium tanks trying to push back however they can. Z-Bird desperately trying to use whatever economic leverage he has, but frankly, it's not very much. Yeah, trying to use the commander to reclaim some of this metal on the front line, I think it's probably a great idea. You have to trade so tremendously efficiently if you want to have any chance of winning here. Shuriken get popped by a whole bunch of fighters that fly on across the map here. Going to be a big old mess of fighters firing at each other. Purple and yellow trading out left, right, and center. Eventually, the forces in blue, or rather the forces in purple for the blue team, going to hold there, but yeah, at what cost, right? The lone hero who survived the slaughter. Couple of constructors trying to rebuild over here end up getting picked off. That's quite unfortunate. Hellhound's precious constructors over here. At the very least, there's some tanks that were handed over just now by Count Tharsis. We also have a whole bunch of tanks that were brought low over here, as well as those T1 bots. It means that there's enough metal to try and get back in the game right now for our blue commander, but like I said before, it's only a matter of time, and now we have a huge wave of sprinters building up here. 3,200 metal worth of sprinters building up from the hot pink player. He's looking to end this game with one final push. Look at this economy, by the way. It's all wind. Wind is all we need. We are dealing with a grand total of 241 wind turbines for the hot pink player right there. Quite impressive. Apparently that's all it takes to get a phenomenal economy up and running. Just a cool several thousand metal and T1 wind turbines. If it works, it works. Nice little volley from the Wolverines right there. Manages to connect on a whole bunch of those thugs, but it triggers the sprinter wave. And I don't think there's much that's going to be able to be done about the sprinters moving forward. These are not pawns. These are their T2 older brothers. They have a little machine gun. Oh, and we don't want to lose them to this commander explosion. Uh-oh. Oh, lost all the sprinters right there to the commander explosion. Honestly, I'd say it was probably a better trade right there for Root 7X. Maybe it's Root X. Much better trade right there for the commander taking down the sprinters than the sprinters taking down the commander. I think it was about 4,000 metal worth of sprinters that had built up there eventually. Blue is failing on all fronts here. We're starting to see slips and gaps in the armor here. Bulls. Uh-oh. Dangerously close to that commander. 1% left on Seaberg's main man. Down go a couple of those brutes as well. They just can't trade out against those bulls and their heavy firepower. Rapid fire, heavy fire. It's pretty difficult to hold the line right there. They are quite expensive, but if you manage to keep them alive like Nikotun is doing, it can mean that you take a fabulous trade. Hounds finally out here. But the T2 sprinters have already been amassed, and they're going to be perfect for jumping on top of these hounds right now. Yep. There go the hounds. Blasted apart by those rapid fire machine guns mounted atop those sprinters' right arm. And indeed, it's going to be the end, I do believe, of the green forces that were coming in for the reinforce here. Look at this protective circle. Thugs keeping the commander safe. Get down, Mr. President. We'll protect you. That's what those thugs must be saying. Sprinters finally deciding to jump on forward here. Shurikens are available, and they'll stop these in their tracks. Nicely done to keep those shurikens positioned over there. I think it will eventually mean that these sprinters get blasted down by the LOTs. It is a tricky game, though. At this point, Hellhound now has a T2 laboratory up. That'll be quite nice. Hopefully the T2 laboratory means that he can get a T2 economy up and running, but if he can't, it's just going to be a slow death here as the sprinters continue forward. Bulls are now being pushed in here. There's actually not enough bulls to counter the medium tanks, and the medium tanks actually end up winning that trade. Okay, nicely done. This could be huge. This could be a turning point for Seaberg, because if he manages to get the reclaim from these tanks, you can see it's already 2,500 metal right now. It's more than enough to fund a full-blown T2 transition. Looks like Seaberg recognizes that as well. Starts up immediately the T2 lab. I think that's the right idea. I think that's absolutely the right play here. Rattlesnake up on the high ground, also supplying firepower down onto the low ground. It is technically capable of firing all the way out here, so that's quite nice. Maybe some spottercraft, rover, rascals, anything like that in order to give a little more vision. Let the Rattlesnake fire away onto the low ground here some more. You can see when it pops up, sticks its nozzle out of its protective covering. Start to do some serious damage down below. Here comes the bull. Ready to drive back those medium tanks, but already Seaberg has eaten up a tremendous amount of this metal and turned almost all of it into a T2 lab. Very nicely done. Shuriken can paralyze a whole bunch more sprinters that were thinking about moving on in this direction. It's nice, but if there's nothing to follow this up with, then it's really not really that valuable. Yeah, there's a Tiger tank eventually going to come on over here to try and help out, but this is going to take forever. Certainly enough time for the yellow player to respond over here. Surely. Well, I suppose given enough time, Shuriken can make any fight efficient. Indeed, this Tiger tank is going to have a hell of a time ravaging all of these sprinters that were paralyzed over here. Boy, these sprinters have been, these Shuriken rather, have been quite a pain in the neck for the red team here. Stunting a tremendous amount of the engagements that a lot of these T1 units have been looking for. Somehow a commander got up here. I'm imagining it must have been a transport at one point. Somehow getting up on top of that mountain over there. Going to be able to set up some anti-air. That's quite nice. Going to shoot down those shuriken at the very least. We do see a big old fighter clash. So T2 clash against the Valiants of the T1 era, rather. Not bad. Rattlesnake up against the Pitbull. I think the Rattlesnake's going to win on that one. Sprinters, though, continuing to be a nuisance. Oh, did we get the T2? Oh, he does get the T2. Oh, that's so painful. T2 does go down. What a menace. The Sprinter managed to shut down the T2. Now, it's not like the T2 had all too much more to do over here. Getting these T2 metal extractors would have been nice, but all said and done, yeah, shutting down that eco growth is always just a pain. And now the Tigers are going to be challenged with keeping balance here. This is an excellent catch. Tigers coming in from an excellent angle, and also it's T2 against T1, so you just know it's going to be a fabulous trade. Whole bunch of those shell shockers are going to go down here, as well as a whole bunch of missile trucks. This is an excellent catch. This is a tremendous amount of metal that's going to go down on the blue side of the map, meaning that these units are ripe for the reabsorption. Yep. Very nice catch right there. Excellent teamwork by Hellshound, managing to save his teammate from utter destruction. Uh-oh, a little bit of a resign vote has already been called. Northern front not looking so sturdy. Whole bunch of T1 units. There's a tremor. Oh, and it looks like the blue team decides to resign. I don't know, a little early for my taste, but yeah, I guess with the Sprinters moving in and with the northern side crumbling, collapsing, and otherwise failing to keep their lines secured, it was only a matter of time before the red team swept through and stole victory. Nicely done to our red team. Excellently done by Tom1286 here, showing us how it's done. Holding the line like a pro, making sure to use every resource available here. Very, very nicely done. Hey, if you enjoyed this video, you can always show me that by hitting the like button down below. You can also hit the subscribe button in case you're interested in joining the Brightworks today. Always makes my day to see new members joining not only the Brightworks, but also the Beyond All Reason community. The more the merrier, I say. And other than that, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will see you in the very next one. Peace out, folks.